Aloha from the beautiful Big Island of Hawaii. I'm Kori Gaila, holistic beauty and wellness consultant, and this is Let's Talk About Health. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. I did take a week off. We were so busy with election coverage, so much going on in our country, lots of excitement. CTM was doing an excellent job covering the election. So that was very exciting, and I went ahead and took a week off while all that was happening, but we're back today. I will be having my guest, Dr. Stephen Ezra West, with us today. We will be talking about inflammation and disease in the body. So very interesting stuff. He always has so much to share. So hopefully you will find that informative. Really, most of the shows that I do are really to give you information to help you achieve optimal health and well-being, health and wellness. So I look forward to having him on today. Also wanted to remind you to please feel free to email me at Kori@KoriGaila.com. That's Kori, Kori, at Kori, Kori, Gaila, Gaila.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd love to have show topic ideas. If you have anything you would like me to cover, please let me know. And I would again encourage you to visit my website, KoriGaila.com. I have articles, information. I have a free book on holistic skincare, an ebook. You can go ahead and download that when you subscribe. And I do also work with individuals. So if you would like to set up a consultation with me, that would be great. So again, please visit me at KoriGaila.com. That website is managed and maintained by amestudios.com. So I just want to say thank you to amestudios.com. Also, just to let you know, if you are interested, we are looking for show sponsors. So if you would like to contact me about commercial advertising on this show to keep this show coming to you, I would be so happy to help you with that. So please do email me. We're going to go ahead and take a break for our commercial sponsors. And when we come back, I will be back with my guest, Dr. Stephen Ezra West. Visit KoriGaila.com and schedule your wellness consultation to receive a custom-designed, scientifically sound behavior action plan that is holistically based. Browse the website and enjoy free articles and valuable health and beauty information. Receive your free holistic skincare ebook, KoriGaila.com. All right, and I'm back with my guest, Dr. Stephen Ezra West. I'm so happy to have you on again. How are you doing today?
It's been a fantastic day. Getting connected with nature, the beach, the water, the sunshine, and we've got a beautiful sunset here happening. So it's been beautiful.
Oh, nice. So you spent the day at the beach. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, I figured, not much is better for our health than getting the deep breathing and bouncing around and playing around. That's just so healthy. So the first thing that I usually tell people to start with is deep breathing. So leading by
Yeah, me,
example.
me too. Me too. I'm a yogi, so yeah, that's definitely the top priority for good health and calming the mind and getting centered and taking yourself out of stress. I think deep breathing is really important. I agree with you. So, Dr. Stephen and I were talking just the other day, and it's interesting. As I mentioned, I have my own share of autoimmune stuff that I deal with, and I've been an athlete, most of my life. I was a big wave surfer and a dancer, and so I have my share of inflammation in the body. We were talking about toxins in the body, detoxing. But what was interesting with Dr. Stephen is really this correlation that he sees between disease, disorder, um, you know, illness and inflammation. And so I really wanted to kind of go into that topic a little bit on in depth with you today because all practitioners, a lot of practitioners have different perspectives on what is underlying cause or what is causing disorder and disease in the body. And from what I gleaned from our discussion, it sounds like you feel that inflammation is one of the biggest factors in a body being out of balance or having illness. So I just was wondering if you can go into that in a
Absolutely.
little more depth.
Awesome, Corey. So yeah, and my father helped champion a lot of that. We have a system that's in our body that's there to help keep the cells in a to maintain the healthy terrain. And the terrain theory is another popular thing that's buzzing around. My father was a great champion of that. He was the person who brought the lymphatic system to the public, and it's a sub-pressure system. It's supposed to maintain a sub-pressure around the cells, and when you have that sub-pressure maintained, there's no inflammation. It's a negative pressure environment around the cells is the healthy environment. So more and more we get a positive pressure blowout, and that is happening more and more with inflammation, with the trapped blood proteins, excess fluid, excess sodium, and
How do
there are
you,
things that
what
cause.
is a positive, really quick, as you said, positive pressure blowout? Can you?
So, like every itis is inflammation, and the word tumor comes from its Latin origin, tumere, which means to swell. And literally, it's a positive pressure blowout because you can't have a tumor without swelling. You can't have any itises without inflammation. So it's a master. You said I look at it as a master mechanism. It is perhaps the biggest key master mechanism there is, and there's a lot of different key factors, key regulators that we can talk about today that are tied into that too. They tie into each other. Like I'll talk about, you mentioned autoimmune and inflammation. I think a lot of listeners would love to hear how that plays with how that creates inflammation, how they're influenced by some of this. What are the mechanisms that influences that? So yeah, when we have an autoimmune problem, let's just say the poisons are poisons because they damage cells, right? So you can take everything that you've ever learned about, is this good or is that good? Well, is it toxic for the body? Poisons are poisons because they damage cells, and damaged cells produce histamine and bradykinin, which dilates the blood capillaries, and out comes those blood proteins with the water. They're the water magnet, much faster than normal, much faster than the lymphatic vessels can retrieve them. Normally it happens so slow, we lose the whole albumin content every 24 hours, but it's a fast enough system, even though it's such a slow system,
You
that
said
we can retrieve it all
albumin,
back.
albumin content. You're talking within the cells.
Yeah,
The albumin
it's
is
the same
the
fluid.
the
Exactly. It's
cellular fluid, right?
70% of the blood protein is albumin too. There's three, and there's two blood proteins that are larger that also help out. But the main content, 70% of that is albumin, the same protein that's around a single cell of a chicken egg. When you crack a
Right.
chicken egg open, it's that clear fluid that is albumin in water. It's also a main fluid in cerebral spinal fluid. You also have a second one of the three called fibrinogen with cerebral spinal fluid. So, but it's basically blood proteins in water. And so this same same fluid around a single cell of a chicken egg, that's the same fluid that we all have around all of our cells, but it's supposed to be in a sub pressure, like sucking on the end of a balloon instead of blowing it up. And the bloodstream's a positive pressure system, so it can't do that. In fact, we don't even have a positive pressure in the bloodstream without the subpressure lymphatic vessels constantly pulling that albumin in water and dumping it back in the blood. And 100% of the people that die from COVID, hypoalbuminemia, meaning low albumin in the blood, is a factor within 100%, regardless of comorbidity, everybody that's died of COVID-19. And also terminal inflammation, because it's collecting around the cells. That's the problem.
And
And
so the
lymphatic job is
inflammation
to pull that
itself,
out.
let me just ask you. So when we're talking inflammation itself, you're talking about the fluid itself that's surrounding the cells, that's surrounding the tissue, it's in excess? Is that what you're saying? It's not
Yeah, yeah,
clearing, the system's
absolutely.
not clearing it properly.
And poisons will create that, and
Mm-hmm.
anything that's damaging the cells will create that. So
Mm-hmm.
poisons are poisons again because they damage cells. The damaged cells produce histamine and bradykinin, which dilate the capillaries of the blood.
Okay.
Out come the blood. That's where you break the ditch bank, and there's water that flows out, or a river bank, and the water that flows out. If that happens to a crop where it floods the crop, farmers, that have farmed for very long know that crops can't be underwater for too long, otherwise they die too. And
Right.
so farmers can relate with that example. But I
Mm-hmm.
can say that it's, if you understand the difference between blowing up a balloon versus sucking all the air out and then continuing to suck till there's less pressure inside than outside, that's what lymphatic vessels do in a healthy
Mm-hmm.
environment, is a subpressure environment where there's no excess fluid. More and more when people lose that negative pressure, they go into more and more water weight. When
Mm-hmm.
some people wonder why they're carrying so much water weight, gaining, and obesity. Lymphedema is another name for this swelling,
Right.
depending on how it happens. Obesity is a form of lymphedema too. Everything. The lymph systems also basically makes up your immune system. So the lymph nodes, most people, that's all they've heard of, and they don't know there's a whole other set of vessels that parallels the blood vessels, that we have more lymph vessels than blood vessels, more lymph than blood. Most people haven't heard of it, but it's the truth. And it's also the lymph nodes are filters that house the white blood cells and lymphocytes. It's like they're garrisons. They get through the whole system. But especially in the white blood cells and lymphocytes, those act as filters, and it's those immune cells that are able to scan the inside of every cell like they are hound dogs, or like there's some high-tech satellite that can scan the inside of every house. If all the houses out there represented the cells of our body, if they could scan the inside and see every single thing that's in there, that's what the white blood cells and lymphocytes are actually capable of. And they help keep away the poisons, anything that's going to harm the cells, right? And if they find cancer or anything that's virus, bacteria, they actually accelerate their life process. And this is really important because to understand the autoimmune, you have to understand, well, it helps to understand more about the immune system. So what they do, they accelerate their life process, which requires oxygen. It's the basic part of that life process. And the byproduct from oxygen, they shoot out like a laser gun. It's superoxide. It's oxygen missing an electron. It's very unstable. It's a main free radical. And that's what dissolves cancer and other bad guys. They have a second laser gun that's supposed to shoot out superoxide dismutase.
And what is shooting this out? The lymph cells themselves?
Yeah, the white blood cells and lymphocytes and
Okay.
phagocytes, and they shoot out superoxide dismutase, and the definition of that, it basically could be called oxygen reintegration is what I call it. That's a special super antioxidant enzyme that reintegrates 1,000,000 superoxides per second every second, so they don't damage the healthy cells in the surrounding area. And the problem is that what regulates that gene is another protein that we're born producing that breaks more and more until we die. And when that gene isn't regulated, that produces that superoxide dismutase, it basically shuts off. Other genes that don't get regulated that are like these survival genes could be producing too much of the wrong thing, like that can cause problems. A lot of disease mechanism genes, when they're not regulated, they're like that. They overexpress, forcing the production of things that are causing us problems. Like literally all the genes associated with cancer are regulated by the same master key gene regulator that regulates this autoimmune process that I'm talking about, that gives the white blood cells the ability to not just, well, it gives them the ability to reconvert that superoxide that they just shot out to kill the bad guys right back to oxygen, so that it just doesn't damage the healthy tissue in the surrounding areas. When that doesn't happen, that superoxide does damage the healthy tissue in the surrounding areas, and that is the mechanism for all of the autoimmune diseases. So how's
Mm.
that? How's that
Fascinating.
to know the
That's
mechanism?
a lot of information. And what I would like to hear, just very simply, is when you're saying these poisons, are these external poisons, internal poisons, a combination, and where do they come from and how do we prevent them from, because it sounds like that's sort of an underlying aspect of the system becoming inflamed is trying to handle and process these poisons.
Right. And I mentioned poisons are poisons because they damage cells. And some of our own cells, I mean, all of our cells produce superoxide from oxygen, but the white blood cells and lymphocytes especially can accelerate that process to try to kill bad guys. And they shoot out a lot of superoxide during that period. And they especially need to be able to produce the superoxide dismutase. But all of our cells are supposed to be able to produce that. And it's part of the aging process itself. Biochemically, it's oxidative stress from free radicals that our cells produce from their own life process, and it is a poison. Poisons are poisons because they damage cells, right? So as long as the cells are tuned right, if they do what they're created to do, everything functions. There's no autoimmune, any problems. But this one is just one of really over 3,000 examples that are regulated by our master key gene regulator called NRF2. That is something that I just did a production, my last production. I started a movement called the NRF2 Activists because people need to learn how to get NRF2 activated and within their own cells. Again, it's what breaks more and more until we die. It's what we've figured out how to fix. It's what all medical science finally come full circle and pointed to very strongly. Where all the drugs have done a 1-to-1 drug to gene ratio, our own master protein does 100%, like all 3,000 plus. So if you can, when I say this is a lot for most people. What do you think about when you hear that initially? It's a lot. It sounds like pretty big, right? In most people's minds, some switches start turning on right away because their subconscious recognizes, hey, else have to say, oh, this is so big, it's like doing a double or triple take right now, saying, can you show me? And that's what I do, and I pull slides from the world's greatest authority. Is not a human, it's a computer database. There's no biochemist, no geneticist holds all of that information in their head, but all of that history of all the biochemists and geneticists and physiologists, everything published in any medical journal, it is contained in this one database called Ingenuity. So that's what I've done is I've collected the slides from it, and somehow like a picture says 1,000 words. When we see the charts, somehow it really, really sinks in, especially the subconscious recognizes the truth of that in a whole different way. Like I said, a picture says 1,000 words, and what they can.
My viewers see it, because I see you're out on the beach right now. We're not really equipped to be showing a slide right now. Is there somewhere they can see this slide?
Yeah, I have a 20-minute summary of what's called the NRF2 Activist production that I just spent the past month scripting.
Okay,
and
great.
The full version is also 2 hours. It's you can get it from the same internet link that I can give everybody here. And to make it very simple, I recommend going to highspeedrelief.com/NRF2. And if you don't remember that extension, you can't get there. So you have to remember highspeedrelief.com/NRF2. And that will get you right in. Okay, so that's it. It's got the summary, the full version with all the slides that I think that it's mind-blowing, really. When I first saw it, I was like, holy cow, this is something that is going to, for sure, change the world forever. In fact, I was like, how does the drug companies feel about this information being out? Like there's one drug designed to tune one of the 28 genes associated with colon cancer, but what about the other 27? And our own master protein does a great job. And hey, fasting activates lymphatics, and activates NRF2. Fasting actually does it, but so does sulforaphane in broccoli and cauliflower. We have 6 times more sulforaphane in broccoli sprouts than regular broccoli. So I was like, wow, is that 3,000 plus times more powerful than any of the drugs of the past? It is definitely more efficient for sure when we talk in terms of efficiency, because they've been in a 1-to-1 ratio, and our own master key, it's doing 100% of all over 3,000.
So the nerve, say it again, it's the nerve? nerve
NRF2.
NRF2,
Yeah,
and that is our master key to our genes, to our
to
genetic
our
code.
disease mechanism genes, like every gene associated with every type of cancer, not just colon cancer.
So if
I
we
can,
can regulate that, I guess, so what you're saying is if that's regulated and in balance, then it regulates disease.
yeah, it doesn't stop, it doesn't prevent people from stepping out in front of a fast moving truck. And so I can't guarantee that it'll prevent anyone from getting cancer because metaphorically, people have been stepping out in front of a fast moving truck in a lot of different ways. I just want to give that as a disclaimer. I'm a doctor of preventive medicine, which is non-licensed. I can't do anything that would normally require a license, such as diagnose and prescribe. And I would say that I can also talk about things that normal licensed doctors have been too afraid to talk about. And as far as ones that are, especially ones that are working in insurance-run hospitals, we can talk about that some other time. But go to Mask. Well, that's another website. I have it on 2 other websites. Should I give the other one too? It's more political.
I think just go ahead and stick with this link that you shared.
Yeah, because it's only
And
that.
we'll post that information because you've given us a lot of information, and I'm listening and I'm gleaning some of it, and it sounds like you have this production that definitely explains it in a little bit more detail, but it's quite complex. I mean, the physiology that you're describing and the action on the cells and how the lymphatic system's working with inflammation in the body, and then this master gene key that you're describing. And so, yeah, it's very complex, but it sounds as though you describe it quite well with this
Yeah,
production that you have, where it definitely, I guess, if you see it, you
you need
say
to see it.
see that it's going to be a lot more easily understood.
Oh yeah, we break it down step by step. And I also give you from there, you'll have access to the Dr. McCord video archive of his first generation Nerve 2 activator, which he's got new ones, one of which is 10 times more effective than the first. We keep learning more, but his first generation one, go see how powerful it was. It's been published the most because it came out first. And I'm talking about peer-reviewed clinical studies. The first one was a human study in vivo, and published on the most studied, the number one focus of medical science. Go check out what that was about. This is something though that we can learn how to do some very simple things, and I think
So can
what
you
I've
give
been
me a
showing more and more,
couple examples, some of these simple things? So because
we
like
got to
maybe
stay
break
out of
it
the
down for
stress.
our audience a little
We
bit.
got to
Like
stay out of fear. We got to stay out of anything negative and all negativity. We got to figure out how to shift it. And when
right,
it's time
because
to
that
figure out how to,
stress and that anger and those moods really do affect the chemistry in the cells of the body on such a deep level, like more than I think people are even aware of the impact it has on health, correct?
and financial stress. Look what's actually, if you follow the money, what's causing people, the biggest holes in the bottom of their boat financially. The number one cause of bankruptcy has been surprise healthcare costs. And what has been part of that? Well, I think big pharma's been, it looks like the only thing they've been big at is making money and padding the pockets of lawmakers and medical schools and so on. And what they've been doing inside the body is very small. And the greatest authority in the world has spilled the beans on that very big. We couldn't have done it without them. Nobody could. Nobody has all that information in their head. But that's what it's come to, full circle to. This is what really hasn't been in mainstream media that we're here talking about right now, and
Right.
it's a huge impact on inflammation. It regulates all the anti-inflammatory proteins as well, and we know our lifestyle is hugely connected to this. So
So
nutrigenomics is what our
you're
diet
talking about
does.
stress. You're talking about stress, emotions, how we are in the world, how we keep balance in our life, what it does to our internal system. It's
Yeah,
a
and I'm
lot
talking
more.
about, look at all the systems of our life that are having huge things that have kept us from having the heaven on earth that we've all dreamed about. I'm talking about that. Wishing and hoping for that heaven on earth type stuff. That's never been controversial, but showing exactly what it takes to reach that, I think is an even bigger picture than what I talk about with the Nerf 2 activist. because there's other programming that gets into every area of our lives that I can tell you is amazing. You know, it starts with simple things like love. You know, seeing how all the mental, emotional, nutritional, physical, and spiritual laws, they're all tied right into the life and death process of the cells. And if you look at how, you know, today it's never been more evident, more obvious of big pharma's influence on government worldwide than it has been today. The balance has gone so far, people have it right in their face, literally. You know, literally, what do people have in their face today? Well, that I don't want to be, you know, it's a very sensitive issue. What I call mask hypnosis is a very sensitive issue, but and who knows? Even Anthony Fauci says that they're not really help. Some people might feel safer, and then he says, "Yeah, we all need to wear them."
You're talking about the
That's been brought
masks
up.
for the
Yeah,
COVID masks, right?
but you know, education like this particular programming and training and hypnosis, they're all the same according to Marshall Silver, who's had the world's greatest hypnotist show in Las Vegas for many, many years. And we can
I'm
use that for
actually, it's
empowerment or
interesting
disempowerment.
that it's interesting that you bring that up because I'm actually in the process of getting my certification as a hypnotherapist. And so,
So you know
you
how
know,
subtle.
exactly. And so well, although I'm also a holistic practitioner, my training, my master's degree is in behavior science. So working really with behavior change, brain plasticity. But then what I really discovered with hypnosis and this ability to get into the subconscious mind is this deep programming, you know, like they say, so 88% of our mind is in our subconscious, and these old programs and these old belief systems are just we're kind of running off these old programs. So really to shift the mind really is so powerful in overall body wellness and well-being and health and perspective. And then everything just kind of cascades from there because our chemistry is so closely tied into our mental health and our mental well-being and our thoughts that we're creating and our emotions. And
There's,
it's really fascinating how much we have so much control that we always thought that we didn't have control.
did you know that the number one authority figure to most people's subconscious mind has been someone in a white lab coat with an MD behind their name?
Awesome.
And and it's dangerous when doctors can't speak the truth without getting in trouble. That's very dangerous. It's dangerous for many reasons. I've been saying it for decades. And you know that the number one cause of death in war, most soldiers that get shot are not having terminal wounds. They're non-lethal. They're just flesh wounds, right? But most of the time they see blood and they think, oh my goodness, I can't believe I got shot. I'm going to die. And the thought process, the fear, dilates the capillaries also, just like a poison. We've got the biggest pharmacy in the world inside of us. That's what you ought to, wait till you see how powerful it is. We have the biggest pharmacy in the world, bigger than all the archives of all the drugs ever invented without any of the negative effects of the drugs. You're going to see that with the NERF2 activists. You're going to see a lot more of that.
Interesting. So
You're
again,
going to see, yeah, what they die of is inflammation and hypoalbuminemia. It's called shock, surgical shock. When it happens in surgery, if someone loses too much of the blood volume where they lose pressure, then they collapse. That same blood vessels collapsing is what 100% of people with COVID die from today. So, you know, the research that my father did, that Dr. Joe McCord did, that so many countless other great men have done, all of that is finally all come full circle, and it's available. So
very
you,
cool. So,
yeah,
okay, so give us the link again, and then is that on a website or is that just that link that people will be looking at?
you know, yeah, people can't even reach me from this website. It's something that I started a movement. I wanted to give something that it also says, get back to the person who told you about this. And so if you heard it from this show, get back to Kori, because without her, you wouldn't be hearing from me. That is highspeedrelief.com/NRF2. And it's a hidden link. You can't just get there accidentally, you need to know the extension after the .com / It's not something you can just Google and get. It's not there.
Right.
You need to go exactly to the
So maybe I will
address bar,
post
not
this
the search
link.
bar.
So
Yeah,
maybe I'll post
yeah.
this link on my website, or,
Okay.
because I always ask my audience to go ahead and check out my website. So maybe I'll go ahead and post that link on my website as well, because it sounds like really valuable information for anyone who's
Yeah.
trying to have optimal health.
And elderly people need help more than anything with what's going on. And a lot of them, they'll try to punch in an address in the search bar and wonder why they get so many options of results from Google. You can't do that with this. You have to type it in a different section, usually above that, called the address bar. That's just for the
Okay, well,
elderly people. So
I'll put
turn
the
is
link on my
confusing.
website too. We'll show
Okay,
it here, but I also will put it on my website. So
that helps a
this is
lot.
fascinating. I know we were going to get into herbs for inflammation. I know we talk about turmeric is pretty amazing.
Turmeric,
Um,
actually very powerful. You know, the body breaks it down to curcumin, then breaks that down to tetrahydrocurcumin, which is 4 molecules. And, we can talk about that on our next episode. There is an amazing product that, that we have with the plant of turmeric
Right.
uh,
And I've
that is
spoken
very
about
powerful.
turmeric a lot because it's just so potent and it's in so many herbal formulations. And I have a background in Ayurveda, and it's actually in just about every Ayurvedic formula, traditional Ayurvedic formula. It was so valuable. I explained before, that it's one of the canoe plants that the Polynesians brought to Hawaii, and they were probably trading with India and got this root. But it's such a valuable root, and it's in just about every Ayurvedic formula because it's considered to be such a potent and powerful medicine. So,
And it's a Nerve 2 activator, by the way, too.
oh,
Talking about
well,
our topic.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not the
Well, thank
best by
you.
itself, but it's one of the pretty good ones. So you bet.
Okay. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you joining.
Visit KoriGaila.com and schedule your wellness consultation to receive a custom-designed, scientifically sound behavior action plan that is holistically based. Browse the website and enjoy free articles and valuable health and beauty information. Receive your free holistic skincare ebook. KoriGaila.com.
Thank you again for joining me this week. I hope you found this informative. I hope that you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Until we meet again, please stay happy and healthy. Aloha.